most ridiculous week and hated people on the recording. Just started recording for later for YouTube. And I had the most ridiculous week that was exhausting but really beautiful. And I've been teaching a little parable every day. And so as you can tell, I'm a little snotty. And I've already been crying a little bit this morning because I just tend to listen to really beautiful music and cry in the morning, especially on the weekends. So happy Saturday, maybe get some nice music and cry a little. But something I think about all the time, and that I'm thinking about because I'm reading my book, The Untethered Soul, is what would you do if you were dying in a month? And it's really important, right, to be able to just look at society and see the things that people won't talk about. Because if somebody won't talk about something, that's always a sign of insanity, right? There's no reason for us to be unable to talk about anything. Okay, talking about things, processing them always helps, right? And so, as long as you're in the kind, loving mindset, right, it's always good to talk about stuff. And so one of those things is death, of course, right, is the idea of death, and that we don't talk about that, and specifically your death. So I'm not talking about dealing with other people's death, dealing with tragedy and death in the world. I'm talking about you as a person are going to die. And it's really important for you to know that. You probably knew that, but it's important you really know. Okay, so just sit with that for a second. And the reason this is important is because if you know you're going to die, then you're going to be way more productive and happy at the same time. And most people think, well, if I know I'm going to die, right, then sure, I could be happy, but I'd probably give up on everything. Or sure, I'd work really hard, but I probably wouldn't be happy because I was dying. And it's not really true. The truth is that if you live like you were going to die in a month, you're going to be way happier and way more productive. And here's why. It's because you might originally think, well, if you were going to die in a month, you'd just rest. But the truth is that you're holding back massive amounts every single day because you don't realize you're going to die, because you think that you're just supposed to fill some role, and you're so worried you're not even thinking about yourself. And so I want you to just think for a second, if I were going to die in a month, what would I change? What were all the things I would stop, and what were all the things I would start? And for me, right, one of the things I would start is I would videotape every part of my life for that last month of my life and share every little bit of wisdom I had. Now, I'm only 26, so you may even have a lot more wisdom than I do, but even I think I have a lot of wisdom and a lot of great stuff to share. And so you better bet that the first thing I would do if I were told I was dying is I would live stream my daily life. And guess what? There it is, right? I'm not dying in a month, but I am dying, because we all are. And here's my live stream, right? I'm working on the schedule. I try to stick close to it. I don't always. I'm still tinkering, right? It's my first week. But this week I said if I were dying, I would want every single little piece of information, every single little trick I had, every single bit of productivity to be passed on to everybody I care about, right? Not just for my legacy, but because even during the last month of my life, it would be so rewarding to know that I was giving it all out, right? And you got to understand that because you have no perception of death, because you're afraid to talk about it, because you don't think about it, you might wake up at any age and realize, oh my gosh, where did my life go? And that whole time, you weren't using your talents or your skills or your passion because you didn't realize you were going to die. And so it's really important to realize that. And then on the other hand, what's really cool is that when you realize you're going to die, you also are able to love way deeper, right? I mean, I'm sure that's true for people who have experienced it, people who have been around people who've experienced it, right? Who've gotten that kind of notice. But for me, when I imagine the idea, if somebody told me I was going to die in a week, I would go around, I would go knock on every door in every neighborhood and send them long love letters and give them candy and to their kids. And I would, just write love letters to the universe all day, every day. I would cry and I would hug people. Because the reason I don't do that is because I'm afraid, because society puts this bubble on adults and says, don't express your emotions, right? But if you think about it, on an infinite timeline, we're all going to die in an instant, because we only live 100 years or less. And time is pretty much infinite right now, as far as I can tell. My physics are limited, but right, compared to the lifespan of the universe, we're here for an instant. And so what that means is that you are always on the verge of death, that you really are this fleeting, beautiful thing, right? That just has a moment to live and be beautiful and do amazing things. And what's so cool about that is it means that every single moment is 100% important and 100% worth sharing love in, 100% worth addressing the hard things in. Because the only thing pretending to not address hard things like death or challenges or whatever is going on in your life The only reason not to address them is because you're pretending that you're not going to die, or you're just trying to run away, right? And that doesn't work. And so those are the two things I would do differently if I were going to die. In terms of productivity or living my lifestyle, I would live stream everything. I would just use my skills to the max every day. Again, not because I want some legacy. Like, I don't want a legacy. I don't care about a legacy. I'll be dead. Like, I don't care. But really because in that moment while I'm still alive, I'm going to feel amazing. Like, I'm using all of my purpose. And, like, I'm not listening to society's narrative of don't go for what you want. You got to understand, this is something that blew my mind. And it's just constantly blows my mind that society is so backwards. I really thought that humans, having lived on Earth for so long, I would be born into this world and the adults would teach me the right thing. And then when I was an adult, I would go do what they told me. And I would do it really well and I'd be praised and life would be great. And instead, I got into the adult world and I was like, what are these people doing? Like, literally, what are they doing? They sit at offices all day and work at jobs they hate. And they let themselves get overweight and they don't take care of their health and they're not happy and they fight and they act like zombies. And I was just like, what is going on? And so maybe, this will just help you wake up to this, like, what is going on? I didn't want it to be this way. I didn't want to be the person who comes on and just blasts mainstream society every day. But the truth is, like, people have no clue what they're doing. It's just some group think. It's crazy. It really doesn't make any sense. And so when you acknowledge death, you're able to blast yourself out of the groupthink. Because suddenly by thinking about your impending death, the fact that you are going to die, suddenly that groupthink isn't so important anymore, is it? Because suddenly you realize that moment when you're on your deathbed, you're going to regret every single thing you did out of that stupid groupthink that makes no sense, right? From acting like a zombie, doing a job you hate, not sharing your love with people, not crying more, not celebrating more, caring what other people think. I mean, none of these things make any sense. And I personally, just to be transparent, I'm still really confused. Because if I can figure this out, right, and I figured it out really fast after getting into adult society, if I can figure this out in a few years and come so far, then, like, why is nobody else thinking about this or talking about this? And I just feel like an alien, like, talking to a camera right now. But the reason I'm talking to the camera, even to a world that I don't know is going to get this or understand me, is because I imagine that if I were going to die in a month, I would definitely be talking to the camera. And I would want all these journals preserved so that if even one other person came by and thought the same thing, we could talk about it, and I could celebrate these last few moments. So if that's you, awesome. So that's one thing. Other thing is, again, just like society has this kind of cap on your ability to work, and like it makes you want to work at a job you don't like or force yourself to do stuff, society, for some reason, almost even stupider, has this cap on how much love we can express. I mean, you need to think that you are a living organism with organs, and you were born from like a little infinitely small thing that grew into you. Like, do you realize how mind-blowing that is? Do you realize how mind-blowing that there's a universe and a planet Earth that rotates around the sun, and that Earth is just far away enough from the sun to give life, and that you're a human who lives in the modern era where you can watch a live stream on Facebook or YouTube and learn from it? Like, do you realize the insanity of that? Right? The preciousness of that. Okay? The preciousness of that is infinite. It's off the charts. It's unreal. And so the idea that we would not express a commensurate or equal love for that, the equal, like, passion for that, is truly insane. It's insane. And so, I wake up and every day, like literally today I woke up and I put on a song on my headphones that are really good Bose, like headphones, noise canceling, just make this beautiful music in my head. I put on a song that just for some reason makes me cry. It's like an old country song. It's not even like a sad song. It's called Little Red Rodeo by Phil Vassar. And I put that song on and it just made me cry because it was just beautiful and inspiring. And like, I cry tears of joy. I never cry when I'm sad. When I'm sad, I just shut down and have no emotions. So, generally crying is always a great sign for me. And so, except it sniffles me up, as you can kind of tell. And it plays with my allergies. But I just put that on and cried. And I'm like thinking, like, how is it possible that every person doesn't do this every morning? Like, how do we not wake up and just cry tears of joy that we're alive? If you were going to die in a month, you certainly would. And you are going to die, right? And the time span between a month and, even 100 years is not as different as you might think it is. And so you got to just think about that. And so I always feel personally like a crazy person on stream, so I'm just going to start admitting this, that I will say things like this, and maybe a couple people will watch it. Nobody will comment, nobody will post about it, and everyone will kind of run the opposite direction. So it's cool if you're on the opposite direction, right, from a conversation about death. It's cool if you don't want to be infinitely happy all the time, right? It's cool, whatever. Like, I'm not in control of you. But I do feel crazy because it's so obvious to me. And it's just effortlessly obvious. It's like the only reason it wasn't obvious is because all these people in the world, the whole society I was born up in, like, tricked me into thinking that I needed to worry or feel bad or be stressed or, like, hide my potential. And I'm just like, what the heck? Like, how could we get to this point? And so, anyway, I just also, like, if you want to see this on display 2 days ago, if you go back in my live stream, I did a video where I just burst into tears on camera and really pushed myself on self-therapy a couple days ago. So you should go check that out. I'm going to have it up on YouTube soon, and I'll clip it into a highlight and stuff, but it takes time. This is my first week live streaming, and so I'm just trying to enjoy it. But I really am going to be here live doing stuff like this for the rest of my life, as long as I can, right? And hopefully eventually I'll be rich and famous and have people to carry cameras around and videotape my life for me. Or I could die in a month, and you don't know. And so you've got to live with your full love the whole time, all right? And you got to run away as fast as you can from places that don't give the full love, okay? That's my new policy. I don't ever fight people who are being negative, people who aren't loving, people who are being this irrational blank out, like not thinking about these things. I just run the opposite direction. I'll give you an example, okay? So if, let's say I'm in a scenario like at a party or somewhere, and I'm in a group of people talking, like not that parties happen in 2020, but eventually we'll have them. I'm just creating a hypothetical here. Let's say I'm in a party and like people start gossiping or people start talking about something negative. Like, I won't try to change the topic of conversation. I'm just going to immediately in that split second run away. Like, I will literally just extract myself from the conversation and go somewhere else. And I'll do that on the phone with somebody, right? Like, if somebody starts to like go into that negative space or go into that space of, again, it's not about like negative as in bad, right? I'm talking about death. A lot of people would consider death a negative thing, but it's not. It's just a thing. When I say negative, I mean warping our own minds to not appreciate life and create an essentially death on earth mentality, right? A zombified mentality. That's what I say when I mean negative, right? Somebody wants to talk about poverty, racism, homelessness, right? Death, all these things. I love to talk about that. That's not negative. That's life, right? We can be positive as we address those things. We can be excited as we address all the challenges in the world. So I talk about racism all the time, right? So it's not like negative in that way. I don't run away from tough conversations. I run away from people who choose to blank out. And so that's just me being transparent for you. A little bit of parable today. This is kind of my self-therapy part, just sharing what I'm up to, is I'm just practicing, setting this boundary where if someone is blanking out, meaning if someone is in their own head with an ego-based conversation, I run the opposite direction. Right now, pretty much the only person I can practice on is my wife, which is kind of funny. Like, so if she, it's a fine line to balance because I do want to support her even when she has challenges and stuff. But there will be some conversations where she's just kind of being gossipy or something's going on, and I will just run the opposite direction, right? Like if somebody calls her and I know that person is going to be negative, like a couple weeks ago, somebody called her and I had a feeling that it was going to be a negative conversation. Normally I would have just sat there and I would have thought, oh, don't judge these people. Don't judge anybody. Just be okay. It's okay. And I would have felt sad. But in that moment, when that person called her, I jumped out of bed. We were sitting in bed. I jumped out of bed and ran to the basement, like from my third floor to my first floor or whatever, second floor to the basement, whatever you want to call it. I ran down 2 stories of steps and was like, I'm not there, right? And so this is something that the negative forces in life try to trick you with, is they try to say, like, you can't ignore me. You can't, like, not listen to me. You have to defend yourself from me, right? But the truth is, these people who are being bringer downers or negative, or who aren't acknowledging these deep things like we're all going to die, we should be happy at all moments, we should always express complete love, we shouldn't criticize. People who are saying things like against that, like, you can just run away and you don't ever have to participate in it. And the price you pay for that is you may suffer in the physical world for that for a while, and you're going to have to get creative, right? For example, even though I had a bunch of great coworkers I loved at a corporate job that made $80,000 a year plus a $7,000 bonus plus about $13,000 worth of amazing benefits and perks, right? I had a $100,000 a year job at age 24, 25, and I left it. I ran away, not because any one person was bad. I loved the people, but the environment still just felt like that environment that was like, we didn't wake up and go to computer programmer work and all talk about death and talk about the fact that we were all going to die, and we didn't all jump up and sing and dance in the hallways. And to me, that's just not okay in any place, in any time, right? We should always be talking about death. We should always be jumping up and dancing in the hallways because we're alive. It makes life that precious. And there's really no counter-argument to that. The only counter-argument to it is blanking out and refusing to acknowledge it. And so what you'll find if you go on this journey like I am is you'll find that 99% of people are going to blank you out and refuse to acknowledge it. And that always blows my mind. Like, this is just transparency. Like, this is not judgment. I'm just trying to figure it out and help people. But it does always blow my mind, right? Because every time I come on camera, like, I'm not kidding you. Like, in this way, sometimes I get my hopes dashed a little bit. I always come on camera and I'm like, wow, I could tell people this. And the moment they hear this, they're going to want to change their lives. And they're going to come to me. And they're going to message me. And they're going to be like, Woody, like, let's do it right now. Let's change everything. I'm ready to throw my whole old perceptions away and change right now. Because that's kind of the way I am. I'll read a book like The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, which will teach me about consciousness and the preciousness of life and all this, right? A lot of stuff I'm telling you, stuff I've learned from him. And I'll just read his book and I'll be like, oh my God, Michael, like, I'm doing it right now, Like the intensity I have is... Okay, I'm going to show you something real quick. I'm going to show you something. Just to give you an example. So, like, to give you an example of something that people who aren't okay with death, who aren't, like, thinking about life and loving it deeply wouldn't do, they wouldn't like this book so much that they tape a picture of the author's face to their wall. I took this directly from above here. Right? I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'm going to add 4 more. I actually am going to add myself so that it feels like I'm in their peer group. But I have mentors, and they're actually on my wall above here. So this is Michael Singer, author of The Untethered Soul. And so if I were a zombified regular person, I would never print out a picture of him and put it up there. But this way he's here with me and I remember it, right? That's how hard I have to work to find people who I identify with. Because I look, I hate to say it, like I'm here on Facebook, but I look on regular Facebook and y'all are like sometimes getting a little distracted about what's important in life. And so that's why I try to come here and be the positivity, And so you don't have to come tape my face to your wall, right? That's not what I'm telling you. But what I'm telling you is, there is no lag time. In a decision, this is something Tony Robbins says. He's also on my wall right above here. Something Tony Robbins says is decisions happen in an instant. And so you may have been tricked to believe that if you make a decision, then it's going to be a long, hard slog and it's not worth it to change your life. The truth is, the moment you make the decision, you're going to feel incredible. Like, guys, I'm waking up snotty and tired, and I cried, and I didn't want to go on camera, and I don't want to do my ab workout next, even though I'm going to do it, and I don't want to live stream it because I'm afraid I'm going to be tired, but I'm going to live stream it anyway. And, I'm beat up, but I keep feeling better every day. Why? Because I know I'm going to die. And I know that today, if somebody came to me and said, Woody, you got cancer, like inoperable, in 5 weeks you're going to die, I could say, well, I'm already doing what I've meant to do. I'm still going to live stream these last 5 weeks, and you better bet it'd be the most emotional, most talented. I would go 10 hours a day, right? Instead of just a few hours a day. I would just keep getting better. And so because like imminent death is not facing me, I sometimes even have to push myself a little bit, but I'm getting there. And I'm starting to bring more and more emotion and enthusiasm every day. You really should have seen the crying breakdown I had a couple days ago. It was pretty deep. But guys, that's it for today. That's kind of my self-therapy too, is just I got to remember that, like, what would I do if I were dying? I got to think that for myself, right? One thing I did is I bought myself a new computer yesterday. It's going to take a couple of weeks to come in the mail from Best Buy, but I bought myself a gaming computer, an MSI brand, like $1,500 computer. It's just a sports car of computers. You go to their website and, like, have you ever maybe you haven't done this, but I have. I don't even like cars. But when I had my first entrepreneurial phase about a year ago, I wanted to be like the popular entrepreneurs, and a lot of them like cars. One of the guys I follow likes cars, and he would talk about his Ferrari on his podcast. And so I would go look at the Ferrari website, and if you look at a fancy car website like that, they don't like tell you the price, or they don't just have a little catalog. They have all these like interactive panes, and it's like, here's the seats, here's this like shoop 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 shoop, and it's all sleek and stuff. Like, I went to this computer's website and it was like that, and so I felt like I was buying a sports car, even though I was just buying a computer that's like the cost of a MacBook Pro. I just want a more high-powered Windows computer instead of a MacBook. And so that was really fun, right? And I'm obviously blessed to be able to do things like that, but also I've created that opportunity because I also have a competitive edge on everybody who walks around like a zombie every day. And so in the physical world, I've had to make sacrifices, right? I had to sacrifice that job to come here, and now I stream for free, right? And I'm working on all this, and sure, I have a vision for earning tons in the future, right? There's a reason my brand is called Liberated Millionaire, but I'm not worried about when it happens because I'm worried about giving my all every day because I could die at any moment, right? And so it's just important, right? It's really important that you keep that in mind. And again, like, it's a fact of life, and it's also a very uplifting thing to me. Like, because here's the thing, right? This is something, I'm going to go on one final rant here because I'm just so passionate about this. I'm going to go on one final rant, okay? Is that whenever you're not acknowledging something that you know, like, it's always better to acknowledge it. And so if you, like, acknowledge the fact, like, I'm going to die, now you've said it out loud. Now it's actually less scary. Now it's better, right? Now it's even more because you already knew that. The whole reason you hide yourself and play all the games in your head and mess everything up in your head is because you're afraid you're going to die, and so you're trying to like protect yourself, but you can't. And so you got to just admit it out in the open. Admitting things out in the open is the best feeling on earth about anything. Think about something you had to admit out in the open and how good it felt after you did. Now just practice that with your entire life. Just do it with everything, man. And so that's what I'm thinking today, is it's an uplifting thing to talk about death. I love it because you know what I know? If I go into a conversation where people aren't willing to talk about death or other hard things, right? Like I said, like racism or homelessness or just like whatever social challenges, right? If people aren't willing to talk about that, then I know that we all know these things exist and we're trying to hide from it, which means we're essentially creating living death on Earth. This is also a term that Ayn Rand, love her books, Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, brings up, is that people who are hiding from the facts of life are trying to create a living death on Earth. And so if you don't want to create that, right, you have to like be willing to say all the hard things. And that's just like Woody Rainey feels like a crazy person, but I'm trying to figure out why other people don't think this way. Because, when I went and I took, and I made a video about this that Preetha and I posted yesterday, talking to businesses about racism, but when I went and took a 16-hour class on racism in America, after 16 hours of education, like, oh my gosh, from colonial times, like there have been like 25 instances in history. It's not just like there was slavery and it kind of happened and then it was bad. It's like there are all these horrible manipulative things that white people did throughout hundreds of years over and over again to make sure that racism continued to exist, right? And that white people were at the top and black people at the bottom and everybody else was in between, right? I went through a class 16 hours of just hammering on all these challenges, all these like horrible things that have been done. But at the end of it, I felt uplifted because I was like, well, I already instinctively knew these things were happening. Now I know all the facts and I can talk about it and it's great. And I looked around and a lot of other people were depressed. And then when I go out in public now and I'm like, white, black, racism, issues, challenges, death, that's like my vocabulary. And everybody else tends to shy away or blank out when that happens. And I'm just trying to figure it out, right? Because you already know you're going to die. You already know there's racism in America, right? You already know there's homelessness in the world. You already know that there are people who can't afford to eat. You already know that people are dying from COVID every day. You already know that, like the American political system has tons of challenges and kind of broken, right? You already know all this stuff. And so by not talking about it, you're literally corrupting your own mind. You are literally blanking out your own existence. You're choosing not to exist in reality. You're choosing literally not to exist. And so, I guess I'm surprised everybody's not uplifted by talking about hard things. My whole life, all my anxiety came from trying to hide from the hard things. And now once I'm starting to talk about all these hard things, I feel great. I feel like just, man, like amazing because I'm living in reality. And it's so awesome, okay? Because you know what else is reality? That we're on this beautiful planet and we're alive. It's amazing. It's totally amazing. And only when you acknowledge all the hard parts about reality can you acknowledge the beautiful parts. Except those hard parts are already there. And so all you're doing by hiding from the hard parts, like racism and social inequality, right? And like challenges and death and all that stuff, all you're doing by like hiding from that is destroying the good parts of life for no reason at all. And so I may never get, I may never be able to, I might just be wired a different way where other people, who choose to blank things out, like they just don't get that. But maybe this message inspired one person today. Just reach out and talk to me, comment here, leave a question that I can address in the podcast or future live, whatever. And I'm happy to talk about it, obviously. I'm actually desperate. I feel like a crazy, insane person who goes live every day and talks about things that nobody else wants to talk about. But I just love it. And my life just keeps getting better and better. It's not just about like the feeling, but man, my life keeps getting better and better and better, right? I'm starting to get in incredible physical shape because I'm working out every day. And as crazy as it sounds, acknowledging my impending death gives me motivation to work out every day because I get to use my full potential, right? And so just all these things, I just have all the feelings. And so this was my little blurb today, kind of self-therapy, kind of talking, kind of ranting, just transparency, just video journaling maybe today was. But I promise to always bring this live to you every single day. And so you're going to get a look inside my brain. And again, if I were going to die in a month, I would want you to have a good month-long look at my brain. But if I'm going to die in 60 years, I want you to have a good 60 years long look at my brain. So I promise to be here every day. I'm not going to say I won't take vacation days. I'm sure I will. I'm sure I'll need time off. I'm sure I'll have times where I need a break. But as a regular schedule, 7 days a week, I'm here leaving messages for you. I'm always here. And so if you just need that one latch to move into a better space, just latch onto this live stream, guys. There's the schedule. It's right there. I'm pretty close to sticking to it. I do my best. And so just get the YouTube channel right there, Living Life with Woody Rini. And I'm going to start uploading all these things. Frankly, I've just been so busy living life that I haven't worried about the YouTube channel for a couple days, but it's soon going to start getting 5 videos plus a day, like all these sessions, everything that's on this schedule is going to go down in the YouTube. And so then it's going to start going live on Instagram, and then it's going to start going live on Twitch when I play video games with my new computer. And then it's going to start, just going everywhere. And I mean, heck, like I think I can do anything. So I'm going to make a pretty big movement, but you have the ability to be an early adopter, and I'm excited to hang out with you. I just want this energy to nourish you, While on the topic of just randomly ranting, one thing that I think about all the time is that now that my scale is not physical or mental, it's emotional. And so all I hope to do is emotionally impact you today so that you're inspired to make a different choice. So I hope this happened, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll talk to you when I go live for my workout around 10, maybe a little after, just depending.